Yes, Minister Hill once again got a good message talking about speaking in tongues. Why was it necessary? And it is necessary to speak in other tongues. First, let me establish that speaking in tongues or other tongues is actually another language other than the language of the speaker. In other words, when God used tongues in an English person, that person will speak another foreign language. Speaking in tongues or other tongues is not a lot of mumbo jumbo. No, no, no. That are made up of a person trying to show others that they are some super spiritual being. No, it's not mumbo jumbo. For instance, words, you may go into church, you hear people over the airways, and they may say something like Hyundai, Coco, she ba ha ba, she na na na. You know, that's not speaking in tongues. Yabby, dabby, do. No, no, no. No, my friend. Speaking in other tongues is speaking a language other than yours. Speaking in tongues is one of the gifts of the Spirit. Did you know that? Some people speak mumbo jumbo, then with that same tongue, my friend, they will cuss you out. Yes, they will. But I'm here to let you know a fountain cannot bring forth sweet and bitter water at the same time. Churches all over are filled with people that play around with tongues, unknowingly that they could be using cuss words or curse words in in a foreign language. You cannot speak in other tongues whenever you get ready. You ever go into church and people tell you, just start speaking in tongues or pray in tongues? No, you can't do that. Tongues is a heavenly thing, tongues from God. It comes from God. You can't speak in tongues whenever you get ready. You could, but it won't make sense. So you find a lot of senseless tongues in many churches. Tongues, like I said, is a foreign language that you didn't go to school to learn. Speaking in other tongues by those that have the gift of tongues. See, when you speak in tongues, you got to have the gift of tongues. They will not have to go to school to learn how to speak in tongues. No, when you have the gift to speak in tongues, you don't need to go to school to learn how to speak a foreign language because it is a heavenly tongue that comes from God. God gave all nations their tongues, and he can baptize whomsoever he will with other tongues. Most of the time, the person that has the gift of speaking in tongues, whenever God pour out his spirit, they do not understand what they are saying themselves. Not most of the time. This is why when God used the gift of tongues in church, he will not do so unless and there is one that's there that can interpret or have the gift of interpretation. God does things in decency and in order. And it is out of order when someone is rattling off at the mouth and there is no interpreter. Made up tongues cannot be interpreted. No, they can't. You're just making up tongues. They cannot be interpreted. But that person only edify themselves. When they speak in tongues of themselves, they edify themselves. And they do not edify the church with false tongues. Who am I talking to out there today? The first time that man spake in other tongues was when they were trying to build a tower to reach up into heaven, like SEARS Tower, the Trump Tower. God always, my friend, intended for man to dwell on earth from whence he came. Because a high tower means a high mind, and a high mind is one of the things that God hates, a high look. So, while these men were attempting to build a tower of Babel, God confounded their language and they began to speak in other tongues to each other. At the first, they were one speech, but now they couldn't understand each other anymore because God had confounded their language. This is how we are all over the world with different languages all over. This is how it came about when they was building their tower. So they was in one place and they all were being misunderstood. So after their language was confounded, God scattered man abroad all over the earth. So this is why you have the Australian with their tongue way down under. This is why you have the Alaskan with their tongue way up yonder. And this is why you have the American that lives in California way out yonder. You understand what I mean? So this is why we have many different languages on earth because man was trying to build a SEALS tower, if you understand what I'm saying. And God forbid. So today, if you look at the many tall buildings, uh, you can see that man never gave up from trying to build tall buildings. So God confounded their languages. God caused confusion between men in their language back in the day of the Tower of Babel. If you are on the sky deck of Sears Tower, on the 103rd floor of the Sears Tower, then there's a fire that breaks out on the 102nd floor, all over enraged fire. The whole 102nd floor is covered with fire, and you're on the 103rd floor. Then you will understand why God didn't want man to build a tower to reach heaven. In times of trouble, God wants to make a way for your escape. Hmm? God wants man to live on earth so that he always can make a way of his escape. And we're talking about speaking in tongues, other tongues. God didn't want people to be trapped. What if God himself had built a tower